morning, good day, and good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to this Empowering Girls webinar. Thank you for joining us, as you can choose to be anywhere, but you are using your time to learn and to help us in elevating voices of our girls worldwide. My name is Dawn Rochelle, and I am honored to serve as co-chair of this webinar with Tina Fischlin. Both of us are past Rotary International District Governors in the southeastern region of the United States. We are honored to serve as two of the 34 ambassadors for the Empowering Girls Presidential Initiative that you will learn more about today. Tina and I, along with our Zones 33-34 Empowering Girl team members, cannot be more proud to be with all of you as we join this NGO Forum under the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. Some housekeeping items to make today enjoyable and efficient in our 90 minutes together. Please note that this session is also going to be a part of something that you can listen back to as a recording. We will make that recording available within 24 hours if you have registered for this session. Please share it with our friends because we welcome everyone to listen in to what the message will be today. Our extraordinary team has arranged for closed captions and multiple language to be available for this webinar. Please just click on the closed caption button on your Zoom toolbar and select the preferred language. Unfortunately, there will not be an opportunity for verbal questions. However, please note that there is a Q&A button also on your Zoom toolbar. If you do have questions, please just put them in the Q&A box and we will do our best to respond in our 90 minutes together. Please note that the questions can be directed to a specific panelist or to all of us. I know that some of you are up in the wee hours and some of you are ready for bed, so let's get this webinar started. Equality is a fundamental human right. It is necessary for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. Still, girls and women worldwide face inequities in areas including health and education, and they experience violence and poverty at higher rates than men. As one of the presidential key initiatives that Jennifer Jones has prioritized, these projects that focus on improving the health, education, well-being, and economic security of girls across the globe are something that we are all empowered to elevate voices to address. We are thrilled to open this session with our very own Jeremy Hurst, who serves as one of the 17 Rotary International directors of the board for Rotary International. Jeremy is a 33-year Rotarian who found his home in the Cayman Islands. A member of the Rotary Club of Grand Cayman, he has served in many leadership roles in Rotary that have led him to his current role as our Rotary International Director for Zones 33-34. Jeremy and his wife, Michelle, believe in giving of their time, their talents, and their treasure. A recipient of the Rotary Foundation Citation for Meritorious Service, Jeremy has been heavily involved in managing Rotary's disaster relief efforts in the Caribbean. Jeremy is a founder of Handwash, which is an audacious Rotary-led partnership bringing clean water, improved sanitation, and hygiene to all of the citizens of Haiti. Jeremy is an accomplished businessman. He owns and operates the IRG group of companies providing a range of property services to the Cayman and other Caribbean markets. Please join me in welcoming our Rotary International Director, Jeremy Hurst.
Thank you so much, Dawn, for that kind introduction, and welcome everyone. It's my privilege and honor to be with you here today. Empowering and engaging girls around the world is critical to the success of our world. As Rotary has continued on this journey, we now understand our role is to be more unlocking the inherent power of our girls as opposed to empowering them, maybe recognizing that they possess power inherently within themselves, and more often or not, this just needs to be validated and released, and we can be an invaluable catalyst in that process. I see this as I watch our young granddaughter grow, and I want opportunity and hope to be accessible to her. I want this to be accessible and attainable for all girls, no matter which country they're born in, no matter their color of their skin or the economics of the situation that they're born into. Opportunity and hope are most possible when all in a community are aligned to see this. Our girls must be valued. Our girls must be seen as equals, and our girls must have access to clean water, to education, to economic equality, and to good healthcare, of course. Rotary has an ability to take problems such as this to a global network of leaders, people of action, who have a heart for service and who can achieve real change. We turn challenges into opportunities to serve and deliver lasting change throughout the world through well thought out projects and programs within the communities we serve. You'll hear today about some of these exciting projects and programs. And of course, we invite all of you on this call who aren't already to become part of Rotary. Rotary in the world needs more people of influence, purpose, and action. And a leader who exemplifies this and has advocated for a better tomorrow for all in countless ways is our own Dr. Stephanie Urchick, who will serve as Rotary International President in 2024-25. Stephanie will become only the second female in the history of Rotary, and the second in 3 years, in fact, to serve as our president after President Jennifer Jones this year. A wonderful example of how our organization is evolving and strengthening through empowered women. President nominee Stephanie is a partner and chief operating officer of Doctors at Work LLC, a consulting and training company. She holds a doctorate in leadership studies from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, is active on numerous community boards and committees, and has been honored by many organizations. So please join me in now listening to a pre-recorded message from an outstanding example of an empowerment, our very own Stephanie Urchick. Thank you.
Hello, family of Rotary and friends. I am Stephanie Urchick, President nominee for Rotary International. It is my great honor to welcome you today and open this remarkable session on empowering girls throughout the Rotary world. PDGs Tina Fischlin and Rochelle, along with the Zones 33 and 34 Empowering Girls Committee, have worked diligently to present a robust program that includes a special panel discussion. Hosted by RI Director Elizabeth Usovicz, the panel features two amazing women who are serving as global ambassadors for this initiative, Thandeka Tutu and Zebu Jiliani. You will hear more about these truly dynamic women and their backgrounds during the program. Zones 33 and 34 were selected for a second year in a row to participate in this virtual gathering organized by the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. We are extremely proud to be adding to the momentum created by past Rotary International President Shekhar Mehta when he introduced this initiative just 2 years ago. So now, sit back, pay attention, and let's listen to how Rotary is helping to improve the health, education, well-being, and economic security of girls across the globe.
Thank you, Rotary International President nominee Stephanie and Director Jeremy. What a great way to get us started today. My name is Tina Fischlin, and I'm the other half of the Rotary Zone 3334 Rotary Ambassadors for Empowering Girls. You all will have heard us mention the word zones, and you may be asking yourself, what is a zone in Rotary? And what does it do to help with initiatives such as this very important one of empowering our girls? So I'd like to spend a couple minutes to explain how things are organized in Rotary. First off, administratively, the world is divided into a total of 34 Rotary zones based on geography. This is done as to better manage the vast network of over 1.4 million passionate volunteers referred to as Rotarians, who are all dedicated to our core principle of service above self. Zones 33 and 34 are composed of 31 smaller geographic regions or districts from Western Pennsylvania down the Eastern Seaboard, across the Caribbean, and into South America. There are over 66,000 members within Rotary Zones 33 and 34, making them one of, if not the most, diversified regions in the world of Rotary. Within each of the Rotary Zones, teams such as ours work to inspire, inform, support, and provide resources to districts, clubs, and their members. We share project ideas to encourage and foster collaboration and partnerships among members of Rotary family and other organizations. Now, let's take a quick look at some examples of initiatives that are ongoing in Zones 33 and 34, which are bringing much needed awareness and solutions on how we can empower our girls who will become empowered women. In the state of Georgia, the Rotary Club of Meriwether County created and sustains their project called It's a Girls Thing. This provides teenagers with hygiene products as well as other basic needs throughout the year through its wraparound centers. They have 5 centers in the public schools. They want children to come to school and stay in school. Similarly, in Jamaica, members of the Rotaract Club of Kingston are also spearheading an education campaign called Empowered to Flow that seeks to build awareness around menstrual health also in high schools. In North Carolina, 9 Rotary clubs in District 7690 collaborate to raise funds and support the All Girls STEP program, which provides education to impoverished girls in Vietnam. On a larger scale, there are several local, regional, and global activities to improve the lives of girls through Rotary Action Groups, which are independent, Rotary-affiliated groups made up of people around the world who are experts in a particular field. One example of this is the Rotary Action Group Against Slavery. This is an action-driven network of Rotarians dedicated to freedom fighting, justice seeking, problem solving, and advocating for basic human rights to abolish modern slavery. Freedom is a basic human right, with over 40.3 million people currently forced into labor, sexual exploitation, domestic servitude, and forced marriage worldwide. It's a staggering 71% of them are women and girls. There is no duty more important than ensuring that their rights are respected, welfare protected, and they are free from want and fear. Our last example is one that highlights the power of partnerships. The Crown Her initiative taking place in Trinidad and Tobago is an example of how Rotary is working to tackle period poverty alongside other NGOs in both the public and private sectors. In the partnership with the supermarket and medical associations, the Office of the Attorney General, and various product distributors, several Rotary clubs in the country are seeking not only to provide increased access to sanitary products by eliminating the tax levied on these products, but also ensuring at least one sanitary product will be made free for all menstruating women. Their goal is to bring legislative and sustainable change to ensure that women and girls do not have to miss school or work. They are no longer forced to use alternative and often unhealthy alternatives during their cycle. Recognizing these needs as a basic human right, the Crown Her initiative is also designed to be duplicated in other countries around the world. You can find out more about these projects and many more projects on our webpage and by joining our Empowering Girls Now group on Facebook. These links are being shared in the chat box. Now let's get started with these exciting panel of women and hear their perspective on how we can empower our women and our girls. Moderating this panel today will be one of our Deputy Ambassadors for Empowering Girls in Zones 33 and 34, Anna Patel. She is also the Rotary International Representative to the United Nations Women. Anna, over to you.
Hello and good morning, everyone. I'm a little bit gravelly, but I am here in New York. And one of the reasons we are doing the event today is that it forms part of the NGO piece of the Commission on the Status of Women, which is the UN's annual event focusing on gender empowerment and gender equality. So it's very exciting to be here, to be part of what is a global gathering of those interested and focused and activating on gender equality. I'm very pleased to be introducing our esteemed panelists today. I'm going to go through them quickly, but we will also put full bios for all of our speakers in the link posted in the chat and as well on the screen as they are giving their opening remarks. So again, honored to be here with Ritah Muyambo, Program Specialist on Youth and Faith Engagement in the Civil Society Division of UN Women, the UN agency focused on women's empowerment and gender equality. Thandeka Tutu-Gxashe, CEO of the Desmond Tutu TutuDesk Campaign Center. Zebu Jiliani is the president and founder of the Swat Relief Initiative. And Elizabeth Usovicz, Rotary International Director and Chair of Rotary International's Empowering Girls Task Force. Again, full bios in the chat. Each of our panelists will have 5 minutes to introduce themselves and then the work they do to support empowering girls and empowered girls. To get us started, I welcome Ritah, Program Specialist for Youth and Religion at UN Women, to help us to understand the challenges girls face globally and the work of UN Women.
Thank you so much, Anna, for that generous introduction. Thank you, Jeremy, for that important and critical framing on girl leadership as well. Many moons ago, when I was at secondary school, I heard about Rotaract, but none of these structures were accessible to me because I was at a rural school. So as I listened to Tina, I hope these amazing programs will be accessible to many rural communities like mine as well. I also hope that, we have girls connecting online, but also acknowledging those who are not able to connect, those who do not have devices to connect, those in conflict and humanitarian crisis, and can never have the opportunity to connect on a global stage. We're here to talk about girls, but it's extremely critical to have girls lead these conversations and be part of these conversations. And this is the work that I do at UN Women. I think Anna just also alluded to what UN Women does as a global champion for the empowerment of women and girls with a focus on gender equality. We mainly support member states to set and implement global standards for achieving gender equality, so that, we empower women and girls because they fuel thriving economies, they spur productivity and growth. But yet, with all the proof in the world and all the evidence through research, gender inequalities remain deeply entrenched in every society. So let's put a spotlight on girls a little bit. If we look at gender-based violence, adolescent girls are a highly vulnerable population when it comes to violence. 1 in 3 women will experience physical or sexual violence in their lifetime, with many of these incidents occurring during adolescence. If we look at child marriage, a global issue that is fueled by gender equality, poverty, social norms, insecurity, it has a devastating consequence all over the world. 1 in every 5 girls is married before the age of 18, and with 12 million girls marrying before the age of 18 each year. If we look at female genital mutilation, every year, 4 million girls are at risk of undergoing that practice. If we focus on HIV and AIDS, in sub-Saharan Africa alone, adolescent girls account for 71% of new HIV infections, and despite representing just 10% of the total adolescent population. So what can we do? We need a particular focus on girls, specifically girls, and it starts with education. Girls' education is not only critical to tackling root causes of inequality, it is a human right and a necessary precondition to ensure skills and knowledge for girls have a deeper understanding of their rights and the agency for mobilizing social change and progress. It is one of those most powerful tools to achieve gender equality. But then the COVID pandemic threatened to roll back progress done on education. As we know, more than 700 million girls have been out of school due to closures. And according to experience of previous epidemics, even when schools will reopen again, 150 million girls of secondary school may still be out of school. So with UN Women and the work that we do, we work with other UN agencies like UNAIDS on the Education Plus initiatives. We work with UNESCO on Transform Education. And currently, and the work that I'm doing at the moment is to try and strengthen girls' leadership, voice agency in intergovernmental processes to influence key decision makers at local, national, regional, and global levels. This is aligned with the UN Secretary General's Our Common Agenda. I'll put the link in the chat, which calls for placing young women and girls at the center and listening to working with girls. We are committed at the highest level to ensure that our policy and programmatic work reflects the needs of girls, including gender diverse youth. So we are convening global adolescent girl leadership town halls as part of a sustained commitment to engaging adolescent girls in strengthening their participation in UN processes and structures. These town halls are convened by girls, where they bring in decision makers into their space and discuss their demands, and at the same time giving the right to reply to decision makers. These town halls as well are linked to most of the intergovernmental processes. We've seen the power of girls, and we are here to support their meaningful engagement. And so we look forward to engaging with the rest of you in the next 5 town halls where we can engage with girls. Thank you. Back to you, Tina. Anna, sorry.
Oh, thank you so much. That was incredibly interesting. And again, we're so excited to have UN Women represented by you here on the panel and to hear about this work. And it sounds like the town halls are really an opportunity. So perhaps we can get more into that in the second question Q&A part of this panel. Now we will turn to Ms. Thandeka Tutu-Gxashe. Thank you so much for joining us here from South Africa. She is the CEO of the Desmond Tutu TutuDesk Campaign Center, addressing the 95 million desk shortage in sub-Saharan Africa by aiming to provide 20 million of these environmentally friendly portable Tutu desks by 2025. She is also a global ambassador for Rotary's Empowering Girls initiative. Thandi, please tell us about your work to empower girls in sub-Saharan Africa.
Thank you for inviting me to this esteemed panel, and it's a really great opportunity to talk about the work that I do, and also to be in conversation with other wonderful women, particularly Zebu, whom I met last year. I think it was last year at UNGA that Malala, the Nobel laureate from Afghanistan, said that, or said to world leaders, if you are serious about creating a safe, sustainable future for all our children, then be serious about education. I'm not sure that world leaders have heard her, because we heard from the UN Secretary General that at where things stand now, it's going to take women up to 300 years to be on a par with men. And so I was so happy to hear Ritah talk about the importance of education. Our TutuDesk campaign provides for a desk for children in schools because we have a problem. 95 million children, it's over 95 million children on our continent in sub-Saharan Africa don't go to school without the benefit of a desk. Now, this isn't really just an African problem, because when you look at other areas, you can look at South America, Asia, you also have the same problem. And so that number goes up to about 500 million children going to school without the benefit of a desk. And the real sadness about that is that being literate is having the ability to read and to write. Now, when you go to school and you're learning to write, and you do not have a solid surface, you don't really attain that writing skill. And so if the right part of that equation, being literate, then it means that we are churning out probably 95 million children who are semi-literate. And that has to be, and worldwide, 500 million. And so our TutuDesk, as we call it, Sean, would you like to show the TutuDesk? Can people see that? Not yet.
Here we go.
Right. There you go. Yeah, this is what a TutuDesk looks like. It looks like an artist's palette, actually. And so the one side has various, the pictures change depending on who's sponsoring the desk. But this one I like particularly because this was being sponsored by a boarding school of young girls in the UK. And this was the design that they came up with, which says education makes the world go round. And that has always been my favorite desk. But the point is that it's like an artist's palette, as I say, and it's light, partly because children in our societies walk long distances to school. And so so they can walk from school from home to school and back again with the TutuDesk, and so have a TutuDesk at school for them to have, to have this available for them. If you are going to a school where there are no desks, you'll very likely live in a home where there are where there is nowhere for you to sit down and do your homework in a specific space for you. And so because they walk long distances, this has to be a light material for them. We have managed to give out 2 million of these desks to children on the continent. I think in about 20, the number is now about 30 African countries. We've also actually sent desks to Pakistan and to some refugee camps on the continent. But the point of it is that the change between before the children have this and after is amazing. We have a comprehensive study that was done by AusAid, which shows the before and after, as it were, in 2012. So the great thing about the TutuDesk for me is that it's actually not just an African solution to an African problem. It's actually an African solution to a world problem. Last year, I was speaking at a conference in Lisbon, and the section that I was in was talking about low tech, high impact. And I loved it for the TutuDesk because that is exactly what it is. It's extremely low tech, but it has a very high impact. And I think my time is almost over. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer questions, and we have a website that people can go to find out more about the TutuDesk campaign.
Thank you so much, Thandeka. And the website has been put in the chat, as well as a larger bio for you. So that all that information is there for our audience and the people listening. Thanks again for focusing on an emphasis on education and for being part of a group of activists and doers who is trying to bridge that 300-year gap that you mentioned. That is far, far too big. So I'll turn now to Zebu Jiliani, the president and founder of the Swat Relief Initiative, which strives to improve the lives of women and children in Pakistan through healthcare, education, economic empowerment, and a sustainable environment. She is also a global ambassador for Rotary's Empowering Girls Initiative. Ms. Jiliani, Zebu, please tell us about your work to empower girls in Pakistan.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be with all of you. And I want to commend everyone and their efforts to work for this cause because it's such an important cause. And I just want to tell you that for the last 15 years, I have been running my organization, Swat Relief Initiative, to empower women and girls in the Swat Valley of Pakistan through education, healthcare, and economic development and clean water. The area of our program, where our program operates, is an extremely difficult place to work in because it is a strictly male-dominated society where women and girls are not allowed to leave their homes without the permission of a male relative. There's even a popular proverb in the local language which says that for a woman, there's either the home or the grave. Having lived in the United States for many, many years, I was a keen observer of Western societies and have learned that the secret of their success is in their ability to organize. So I took this knowledge with me to help the women and girls of the Swat Valley who have been traumatized by a brutal Taliban takeover of their homeland and who had witnessed the destruction of over 400 girls' schools in their region. I realized that if I wanted to empower women and girls, I had to first empower and organize the communities they lived in. I knew that our program for women and girls would become more sustainable with this strategy. To date, my organization, Swat Relief Initiative, has mobilized and organized more than 30 villages and given them years of training sessions to become viable organizations. All our projects run in partnership with these community organizations, which helps the local population to take ownership and be more involved in their development. Once we gain the trust of the local population, we start giving them awareness sessions on the benefits of educating girls. We let them know how females can also be breadwinners of the family once they get an education and are treated with equality. We also talk to them about childhood marriages and the harm it can cause girls in particular and the community at large. With this kind of approach, we have been able to build many schools with the blessings and involvement of the local communities, and it also helps us to pave the way for a sustainable future for girls' education. Girls living in poorer countries have fewer opportunities to get an education than their male counterparts. They're less likely to be healthy, more likely to get married young, and less likely to make it to adulthood. The reason why I feel so passionately about educating underprivileged girls is because I strongly believe that education is the ultimate equalizer, especially in places where social justice is scarce. For our organization, empowering girls through a holistic approach is a priority. By creating sustainable programs in education, we prevent girls from becoming child brides and instead allow them to grow up to become strong and independent women. By creating sustainable programs in healthcare for mothers and children, we help women and girls thrive and reduce infant and maternal mortality. By creating sustainable programs in economic empowerment, we train women and girls in vocational skills and help them start their own businesses so they can become confident and independent earners. And our clean water projects help girls stay healthy and safe from disease. I feel that when we do something to empower others, we also empower ourselves in the process. And that is when we know that we have the power to change despair into hope and to make the world a better place for little girls who are often mistreated and almost always left behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zebu. That was absolutely wonderful. And again, emphasizing both the focus on education as the ultimate equalizer. That was a great phrase, one I will definitely be borrowing from you, but also the importance of community trust and involvement in programs supporting girls. So thank you very much for your words there. I look forward to getting a little bit more into it in the Q&A. Now we turn to Ms. Elizabeth Usovicz, a Rotary International Director and the Chair of Rotary International's Empowering Girls Task Force. Director Usovicz, can you tell us more about the impact of Rotary's Empowering Girls initiative over this last year plus?
I'd be happy to, Anna. And this is such a historic year for Rotary. We have a very capable and effective leader who simply happens to be a woman, and that is the goal for all girls in the world, to become those empowered women of the future. And I would say, just as a frame for this, that my work as the chair of the task force is really very much informed by the 21 years as a Rotary member and volunteer that I've been engaged in projects in the country of Malawi. And over that time, that project started with a school sanitation project in 40 villages along the catchment area of Lake Malawi. But it was so much more than a sanitation project because it provided gender segregated bathroom facilities for boys and girls in that school. So providing the bathrooms and the sanitation was just one part of that project. It has been mentioned. This is a holistic approach that provided the opportunity for girls to stay in school, to go to school during the time that they are managing their monthly feminine hygiene. It's an enormous opportunity over 21 years to watch girls find their power, own their power, and then become empowered women. And that is the real work of the collaborations that we have with other organizations, as well as within Rotary. I would say, and I totally respect that it takes a village, it takes more than a village. It takes a global family of women and men, of Rotary International and other organizations that we have the privilege to partner with to initiate and create equality for women and girls around the world. So when you ask about impact, I would say that the impact of this initiative in Rotary International is very much like the impact that is hoped for from the UN Sustainable Development Goals, where equality is woven into each of those 17 goals. We have thousands of projects that Rotary members and Rotaract members worldwide have contributed to. I think we will have a long-term impact with those projects. We can see immediately the number of girls who have taken advantage of the resources that we provide, or the children who take advantage of the resources that we provide. But I would say in the short term, the impact is a little bit more nuanced. We have projects, and I love the TutuDesk projects. It is an amazing project. We have a project in South Africa initiated by a Rotaract member that is developing the first youth-based gender violence prevention curriculum. And it is an enormously important project. We heard a little bit about Crown Her. That's a great example of organizations, including Rotary, coming together to make significant impact and positive change on an entire country. But in the short term, we have slightly more nuanced impact. The first is Rotary typically considers projects. Clubs engage in projects. They are people of action, as Director Jeremy said. They make an impact through their work, through their hands-on involvement in the communities. And we tend to think about beneficiaries of those projects. Girls who are empowered, and our work in that area to help them recognize and own their own power is a little bit different than that. Our role is to provide resources. It's to provide training in skills, education. It's resources that allow girls to recognize and then own their own power, because we don't empower them, but we are their allies. We are their advocates. We are their supporters. So that's a slightly different shift in how we look at the impact of empowering girls. Our partnerships as well. In Rotary, we tend to look at getting things done in our clubs, in our regional districts, and we think about getting that done as Rotary. We are now starting to think, and we see with Empowering Girls, that this is a partnership opportunity. Having ambassadors like the two women I am honored to be on this panel with today is an incredible part of this program. The ambassadors we have within our Rotary family, who are so important in creating awareness and in providing clubs and districts in Rotary with the resources they need, are an incredibly important part of that partnership opportunity that we have as well. So moving from projects and beneficiaries to thinking about resources that we provide and being allies and advocates and supporters, how we expand our concept of and how we think about and work with partners is part of this as well. And a third element is really the fact that Rotary has been doing work that enables girls to own and recognize their own power and then build their futures. For many years, for many decades, we simply didn't look at it in that way. Now, we're now starting to see the impact in terms of the possibilities through the lens of girls. And I'll give you an example as I conclude here. I was recently in Brazil, and I had the opportunity to talk about girls' empowerment. And I mentioned in that talk a statistic from the United Nations about how many hours a day women and girls spend fetching water globally around the world. And I mentioned that that figure is girls and women spend 200 million hours a day globally fetching water. That is 22,000 years. What incredibly wasted potential that is. A gentleman came up to me afterwards and said, you know, I had never thought about this before, but when you mentioned that statistic, I thought about the fact that I, in Rotary, have been involved for almost 40 years in creating water wells in communities that did not have clean water. And I thought we were doing water projects. But when I heard you speak, I suddenly realized I am now saving those women and girls hours out of their day. And now we can utilize their potential. So we can't stop with the water well. Now is, how do we engage in providing educational resources, the opportunity for education for those women and girls? The water wells, he said, are just the beginning. And that to me is part of the greatest impact of the Empowered Girls initiative that we have in Rotary, is starting to see that the work that we do through the lens of girls has tremendous impact for generations to come. So I am so proud that Rotary has really looked at empowerment and looked at our work in engaging in humanitarian service through the lens of girls. Because as Anna, I've heard you say before, women's rights are human rights are women's rights. And Rotary being a part of this global family, this global community, I think is a very fine step. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And of course, that phrase that I do repeat often is a direct quote from Hillary Clinton at the Beijing conference many years ago. But that was so interesting. And thank you so much, Elizabeth, for both giving us a sense of how far this initiative has come and also a sense of how Rotary has changed or evolved its thinking from the idea of empowering girls to being allies to empowered girls. And so I really salute that transition in thinking. I also wanted to bring up, it was interesting that you ended with a focus on sort of water, because the UN will be holding its water conference next week, the UN Decade for the Action on Water and Sanitation. And I have been already contacted by a number of Rotarians from different parts of the world, all women. I'm not sure if that is just a coincidence, but it is, who are going to be attending that conference. And so it just makes me think of all the connections that can be made here between Rotarians working on different topics, but also our UN colleagues and counterparts and UN agency counterparts who are focused on these specific issues. So thank you so much. Before the next round of questions to our panelists, we're going to hear about a specific initiative to which Rotary is contributing within our zones as part of its Empowered Girls initiative, but which also has global impact and resonance for communities elsewhere. Past District Governor Clenise Platt will introduce our speaker for this section.
Thank you, Anna. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone, and also a great honor to introduce Rudo, who is a development consultant and member of the Rotary Club of Grenada, and will be presenting on the Spotlight Initiative and its focus on ending all forms of violence against women and girls around the world. Rudo, please tell us more about this very important initiative.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. In 2021, we had a report that came out from the United Nations, which was entitled Measuring the Shadow Pandemic, which was violence against women during COVID-19. And that report told us that since the pandemic, violence against women had increased to unprecedented levels. The American Journal of Emergency Medicine said that domestic violence cases had increased by as much as 25 to 33% globally. And in America, a little above 8%, just because of the imposition of lockdowns and lockdown orders in order to keep us safe during the pandemic. So what we do know is that domestic violence is prevalent everywhere. And according to the statistics that we've seen, domestic violence and intimate partner violence during the pandemic has increased because of the risk factors that increased during the lockdowns and the pandemic restrictions. So I'm just gonna change the slide. Shazam. So the Rotary Club of Grenada partnered with the Spotlight Initiative to eliminate violence against women and girls. And as we move to the next slide, we see where we have statistics that we have specific to Grenada, but these statistics were from 2018 when Grenada undertook, through the support of UN Women, a Women's Health and Life Experience Survey. Now, these figures are quite startling, but these figures are pre-COVID. And as I just alluded, this situation would have increased since our COVID experience. So it's called the shadow pandemic because it was happening against the backdrop of the COVID pandemic. And one of the things that happened in my life as a Rotarian, because I was on the Public Image Committee, is that while we were trying to promote vaccination and other good public health mechanisms to support the recovery from the COVID pandemic, we were receiving literal pleas for help from women who were in circumstances that they didn't know who else to turn to other than the Rotary Club, whether it was for support with food hamper or whether it was support for getting information out because they couldn't take the chance of communicating with anyone else. And so it became very apparent to us as Rotarians that much more than we were currently doing and that we even thought was in our capacity to be done had to be done so that we could reach this very important and vulnerable community of young women and women and even men who are experiencing situations of violence against women and girls. So on the next slide is where we describe what was sort of a shining light for us, but the Spotlight Initiative that we came to learn of. That Spotlight Initiative, which is a global initiative to eliminate violence against women and girls, is a United Nations initiative which is supported by the European Union and other partners. Now, this Spotlight Initiative was launched with seed funding of a commitment of about 500 million euros. And it represents an unprecedented global effort to invest in gender equality as a precondition and driver for the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. And we know all too well that since COVID, we get the reports that much of the work that has been going on prior to COVID has been sort of degraded or wrecked apart by much of what was experienced by COVID. So the Spotlight Initiative is responding to all forms of violence against women and girls with a particular focus on domestic violence and family violence, sexual and gender-based violence, harmful practices, femicide, trafficking in human beings, and sexual and economic labor exploitation. It's a cross-cutting objective that looks at mainstreaming women's empowerment, leaving no one behind, and in particular, engaging with civil society organizations so that it can have impact also at the grassroots level. So on the next slide, I start to demonstrate just how broad and wide-reaching this project is. There are 6 pillars of the Spotlight Initiative, the first one being laws and policies. And these laws and policies are hoping to promote laws and policies that prevent violence and discrimination and addressing impunity. The second pillar is institutions. That pillar hopes to strengthen national governments and regional institutions so that there can be better informed decision-making. The third pillar is promoting gender equitable social norms, attitudes, and behaviors. The fourth pillar is services. It speaks to making high quality, essential services for survivors of violence available. The fifth is data. It's improving the quality and accuracy and availability of data on violence against women and girls. And the sixth, which for me, I think of as one of the most important, but I think the Spotlight Initiative also recognized the importance of the women's movement, in particular, promoting strong and empowered civil society organizations like the Rotary and autonomous women's movement in order to help in this fight to end the scourge of violence against women and girls. So as we move on to the next slide, I will start to kind of highlight the role that the Rotary Club of Grenada played as an implementing partner for the Spotlight Initiative. When we realized that we had a lot of work to do in order to help with addressing ending violence against women and girls, we reached out to our colleagues in the UN system. And through the UN Women, we got to know about the Spotlight Initiative, and we drafted a proposal for support of about $5,000 to help us with building our capacity to implement a project to support ending violence against women and girls. The response that we got from the UN system was so fantastic that with their belief in what Rotary could do with our already active service projects, our work in communities, our ability to do things as people of actions, we were awarded $61,000 in order to roll out a very comprehensive program that works with policymakers, works with young women, works with our community from our security service providers such as police, works with the ministry, builds partnerships across civil society to empower these groups as well as ourselves to really hit the ground and spread the message of promoting gender equality advancing some of the key policy and legislative measures that need to be put in place, and to continue our work of advocacy and community service to end violence against women and girls. And so as people of action, we hit the ground running. So with those funds received, and as I move to the next slide, you see where our district governor, Leslie Ramdani, was one of the first persons to tell us, imagine Rotary. At that time, it was going to be the next team. And he said, imagine what we could do and what could be possible if we bring ourselves together, partner with the government, and partner with other civil society organizations to get more done than we can as a small group, as a small surface group, but with huge impact. And so we launched this project, building partnerships, firstly, with government. And as I move on to the next slide, you will see that the next thing that we did was build our own capacity through collaborative learning and advocacy. So we had people come in from the UN system, from UN PAHO, from UN Women, from UNDP, from the police, so that we knew more than we started off knowing, because this is a really pervasive scourge, and ending violence against women and girls is something that requires a very multi-pronged approach. And we didn't start off thinking we had the solutions, but rather that we wanted to be a part of addressing the much and many and very important work that had to be done. So learning and collaborating was very key for us. And we wanted to empower our members, or everybody in our club. We wanted them to be able to go out there and advocate for ending violence against women and girls. The next thing we did, as we raised our imagination, is partnered with an influencer, Cole Baldeo, who had already been promoting what's called island pop music, a young woman in herself who breaks a lot of gender stereotypes, was very eager to partner with our club, because she also wanted to spread the word, not just on the platform that Rotary would use as a professional and service club, but on a platform that reached a wider audience than we sometimes can imagine. And so partnering with someone who was active in the pop and youth attractive era was very key for us. It got the message across to a wider audience than we thought imaginable. And moving on to the next slide, you see where we worked with young girls and young boys, because this is not a message that is solely for women. Ending violence against women and girls is an all hands on deck necessity, but it also engages our young people, because there is nothing that is so taboo as not being able to speak up when you're in a situation of violence or sexual exploitation, that we are sometimes shuddered into silence, that it remains underreported. So we wanted our young girls to identify and know what was appropriate and inappropriate behavior, be able to advocate on their own behalf, and to have the confidence to speak up, to figure out which resources, who they can go to, so that they can not only say no, but help their sisters, help their community. And so it's been very important for us to have these busloads of young girls active in fun learning. So when we were learning, it was sitting down and having a coffee, but when we were interacting with our youngsters, it was almost like a fun play day. We had busloads, maybe at 100 of children at a time at playing fields in our Eastern District, learning about ending violence against women and girls. And so coming to the next slide, what I think I would like to share with you is just some of the lessons that we've learned and the outlook, because the Spotlight Initiative is a global initiative. It's happening in Africa, it's happening across the Caribbean, it's in Latin America, it's in Asia, and it means that there are a lot of opportunities for partnership with many different Rotary clubs who can design just as impactful projects. And what we know is, despite a lot of the very important work that has happened, COVID and situations that bring about a lot of conflict, erodes a lot of that work. And so there is still much more work that needs to be done in order for us to address gender inequality and women's and girls' human rights through ending violence against women and girls, because it continues to be a pervasive problem across the globe. The full extent of gender-based violence in Grenada and globally is still unknown and underreported, and it means that there is a lot of work to be done. But what we do know is that the work of clubs like Rotary and some of the projects that we've even heard of today are very important, because one of the statistics that we had in our same 2018 Women's Health and Life Experiences Survey was that the issue and the prevalence of violence against women and girls was higher among women who had not been able to complete primary level education. And so there are so many key aspects of empowering girls that allows for us to address the scourge of ending violence against women and girls. So sustained teamwork, advocacy, and partnerships are needed to address ending violence against women and girls. And for me, as a Rotarian, I'm probably one of the youngest Rotarians here, having only joined in 2020, but always wanting to have joined the Rotary. The Rotary really must continue to harness its strength to deliver impactful projects, because the work that we're doing is so important. I mean, I can tell you a secret. I actually tuned into the first ever webinar on empowering girls, and that's where I got really fired up about having a project for Grenada. So to tackle the work that we need to do in our communities, we need to collaborate and really do the work of Rotary as people of actions, as people who are able to build these partnerships and learn and deliver impactful projects. I think there is no end to what we can do to support empowering girls. And by the next one of these, really have maybe some statistics and data to show where, looking back from where we started to where we are, how we continue to contribute to advancing these sustainable development goals, ending violence against women and girls, and really building our communities for young women and girls. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Rudo. That was excellent and such a great example, along with the many others presented today, of how Rotary is contributing to projects on the ground, is supporting and can initiate these kinds of projects and bring in the communities, help support and be part of that community involvement in these projects as well, and these partnerships. I really appreciate that. And lots of great response as well in the Q&A session, which has been very active. And thanks to Ritah and others who are responding to questions through the Q&A. I did see the reference to the He for She initiative, which is part of UN Women. And I wanted just to say that we have partnered as Rotary with the He for She initiative before. And again, that is a focus on masculinity and the role in which young men and boys and men can play in gender equality and women's empowerment. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to reintroduce the panel very quickly and then go through what I hope ask Dawn to throw any questions that she's seen in the Q&A that could still be addressed by everyone, as well as ask one overarching question and ask the panelists to both respond to those as well as give us some final thoughts. Again, to reintroduce, we have Ritah Muyambo from UN Women, Elizabeth Usovicz, Chair of RI's Empowered Girls Initiative, Thandi Tutu-Gxashe, CEO of TutuDesk campaign focused on sub-Saharan Africa, Zebu Jiliani of the Swat Relief Initiative in Pakistan, and we just heard from Rudo of the Spotlight Initiative. She's in the Caribbean, but this is a global initiative. So to go back, Dawn, are there questions from the chat that we can lob to our panelists?
Let me unmute. Yeah, thank you. I'm sitting here just sort of soaking it all in. And so I just am in awe and always inspired. So we have a question that has come in regarding sustainable partnerships with empowering girls and peace ambassadors. And so I'm thinking, Director Usovicz, that may be a question for you to talk about how this initiative is seen in partnership with other Rotary focus.
You know, I think that is an excellent question, and I did see that question in the chat. I'll give you one example of how that kind of partnership can take place. And I was inspired, and this is how we get inspired from around the world. In 2020, I was inspired by the European Rotary members and Peace Fellows who came together and implemented what was called a Peace Projects Incubator. Peace Fellows developed projects and then presented them in an 8-hour session. It was 8 hours online. It was amazing. And then from those 60 projects that were presented, the Rotary members donated their registration fee for the online event. And those registration fees were given to the highest vote giver. Another iteration of the Peace Projects Incubator that was done in zones 30 and 31, both online in 2021 and live in 2022, or hybrid in 2022, was a little bit of a modification from that. We selected 3 projects from Peace Fellows that focused on the empowerment of girls and women. Those 3 presentations took place in an assembly format, and then we went into breakout rooms. We were live. The Peace Fellows were on Zoom. We went into separate physical rooms with one of the Peace Fellows in each of 3 rooms to talk further about those projects. And as a result of that, districts donated their funding to create global grants from all 3 of those peace projects. So this is just one of many ways and many options for Rotary clubs and Rotary districts and Rotary members to collaborate with Peace Fellows. Peace Fellows are one of our greatest assets. They have the skills, they have the technical expertise, and they have the heart for service that they share with Rotary members who have the funds, they have the will to do the work in the field, and they have absolutely the commitment to seeing the impact. So I hope that's a possible example for you of the kinds of partnerships that we can form, particularly with Peace Fellows.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. And for those who don't know about Rotary's Peace Centers and Peace Fellowships, this is a program whereby Rotary International and Rotarians who give small amounts of money that go up to make bigger amounts of money, support a little over 100 people around the world to do a full master's program in peace building at one of the 7 peace centers around the world. I had the pleasure and honor of being a Peace Fellow with our program, mid-career fellowship program in Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, Thailand. There are also full master's programs supported in Japan, Australia, the UK, Uppsala University in Sweden, Duke UNC here in the United States. And I think I'm forgetting one. Oh, and we have a new center based in Ghana, and soon to be opening a new peace center in the Middle East. The funding for that has actually been raised and are looking for the university partner. So this is an incredible opportunity, and many Peace Fellows focus on the work of empowering girls and women. A friend of mine who is a Peace Fellow likes to remind me that when we talk about peace, we don't just mean peace in terms of countries and regions and communities, but peace in the home. The ability and the right to live in peace without violence in your home, in your domestic situation, in your schools, and in your communities. So it's important to think about work, just like the Spotlight Initiative, I think, does focus on in all those ways. So thank you for that. I am going to now turn it back to the panel. The overwhelming question that I had asked you to think about, which is, what are 2 to 3 critical challenges or opportunities for empowering girls in 2023 and beyond? I think of all the various ways in which I see already some opportunities for connections. Ritah, I'd love to hear more about the town halls from your side. Elizabeth, more about how Rotary can be a better ally and supporter of empowered girls. Zebu and Thandi, ideas around these partnerships. How could that look and what are opportunities for partnerships? And Rudo as well. How is this program, how can it be expanded both at the community level and global level? So I will turn it over back to the order we started to Ritah to open us up for both a response to that question and a final remark.
All right, no, thank you so much. It's been really interesting to hear more about what's really happening. As I said at the beginning, I always wanted to understand more about Rotary, about Rotaract programs that I just heard about. So it's really interesting to be in the space with, those who are working there. And interestingly enough, I think, Rudo, you really gave an overview that really laid the environment in which a Rotaract works. So thank you so much for that. So from the work that we've been doing, I think I'm not so sure if many of you know about generation equality, which I will also put the link in the chat, where at that moment in time we saw the leadership of girls taking lead in the way they mobilized around generation equality. There was a global acceleration document that came out. Girls analyzed that document and really found out that there wasn't much in terms of actually girls taking a lead. There were gaps in the global acceleration plan. And from that, they called out UN Women for us to actually make sure that we start co-creating with girls, we start co-designing programs with girls, and not just to bring them into the programs, but them to be part of that co-designing. They wanted to see shared leadership, not for them to come in as we are inviting them into the space, but then for them to share that leadership. So instead of just having perhaps a body that has got 12 girls, we discussed with them how we can engage with more girls than just a body of perhaps 12 girls who are on a board. And that's how the Global Town Halls came about, where they create the core design, they share the leadership around starting these global town halls, where they then bring in decision makers, member states, private sector, civil society around each topic they want to have. The last one was around technology and innovation, where they brought in the decision makers. They laid out their demands. They gave the right to respond so that they can actually follow up on some sort of those demands. So the next ones will be around how can girl voices be in the ECOSOC, be heard in the ECOSOC processes, in the General Assembly processes, in the Global Forum for Adolescents that's coming up from WHO, in the Women Deliver, in the high-level political forums. So we are bringing together more than 100, 200 girls in each town hall for them to share their experience and also be able to have their voices heard by decision makers. Back to you.
That is wonderful. And I look forward, and I'm sure Elizabeth will be with me in following up and seeing how can we get some of Rotary's interactors and Rotaractors and those who we are supporting in various communities involved in this. That would be a wonderful follow-up to this session in terms of partnerships and all of that. So thank you for that. Very much appreciated. Thandi, can I ask you to unmute and respond to some opportunities and challenges you see for girls and young women in 2023 and beyond, and also give us a final remark. You're muted.
Am I still? No.
Now you're good.
Can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
okay. Excellent. That's strange. Okay. Thank you again for this wonderful opportunity and this very awesome panel discussion that we have had, and particularly in the space that we are in of education. COVID-19 really, almost cut our feet from under us. And as far as education is concerned, not only locally in our country, but globally. And so we're kind of on the back foot trying to move forward again. And so we're further back than we were in 2019, than now in 2023. And that's I think that's part of the challenge, is trying to get the impetus and to actually move back to where we were in 2019 and onward after that. And I think my greatest worry is that, particularly within the global south, where I am from, what COVID did is not only put us back, but it showed the inequalities within countries and between countries and within countries. And I think part of what I'm really impressed about is these forums, the forums that Ritah was talking about, where the young girls put things together. And I think that's part of what education is about, is that you're not you are educating people so that not so that you can save them from situations, but you are educating them so that they have the power to save themselves in whichever way they want to be saved, as it were. And so where it's possible to have more involvement of young people, I think that is going to be the difference between moving things forward or not. Because until they are there at those tables and making decisions for themselves, we're still going to be fighting these inequalities. So I think one of the most important things is really to open up those tables, which we have also been struggling to get a seat at, and maybe it's time to just break the tables down and build new tables with our own seats. And I think the more that we can have young people involved in that, young women particularly involved in what they want their world to look like, because we're kind of, well, not all of you, but me, being one of the elders, is kind of on the stoop looking out, on the way out. So yes, thank you for having me here, and it's been wonderful to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. And I love the idea of breaking down and building our own tables. I am watching the clock go down, and so I'll ask to stick to about less than 2 minutes if possible. But Zebu, I would love to hear from you what you've heard from about this discussion. Where you see challenges and opportunities for 2023, and give us some final thoughts.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure hearing everyone. And I feel you're all very powerful and passionate women who are working for a very important cause. But I've spoken in dozens of Rotary conventions and panels like this, but the thing that I want to happen is to see that we do some follow-up with, what we talk about in these. Because if we don't follow up, we're not going to see results. So I think we've already got a panel of really powerful women who are passionate about their work. But if we can follow up and find out how we can empower ourselves and our organizations more to do more work so that we can impact more people, that would be great. And, that's something that I expect maybe Anna or Elizabeth to maybe help us do that. That would be great. And my closing remarks are that I just wanted to tell everyone that many people ask me why I give girls' education so much importance. They ask, isn't boys' education important too? And I tell them, of course, both of them are important. But the reality is that there's a lot of discrimination against girls, and the playing field is not even for them. Most girls are left behind because in male-dominated societies, boys are valued more than girls. Girls need a lot of catching up to do, so we need to do a lot more for them in order to help them have equal opportunities and become equal to boys. I feel if each one of us who could afford it would educate just one girl each, we would put millions of girls in school and help them be on par with boys. Educating a girl not only changes her life, it changes the lives of her immediate family and the lives of all her future generations. This one act would make our world a better place and a more equitable place. So this is my appeal to everyone, that take girls' education seriously, and each one of us can do our little part in improving girls' education, and this would have a huge impact on the world. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Zebu. I will turn now to Director Elizabeth to offer us some final words.
Some very final words, and I feel as though I should say, yes, what she said. I love the comment about building new tables, but I say, who needs a table when you have a TutuDesk that's portable, right? I think that being flexible and innovative is part of our way forward. And the term co, I love the idea of co-leading, of co-creating. That is incredibly important. And that is how we are better allies and advocates for girls. This isn't a program or a project that we do for them. This is a way forward to our collective future alongside them. We walk alongside them. So listening and all of the resources we provide, listening to them and giving them the space, not to tell their stories for them, but allowing them to tell their own stories in their own voices. And this kind of a shift is incredibly powerful. It sounds very simple and it sounds very undetailed, but when we start to take those steps, we start to see incredible positive impact, because they are, and I agree with you, Tandy, we are on the stoop. It is time for us to allow that leadership to move forward. And that is the greatest gift I think that we can give the future women of our world.
Thank you. Well, that I think provides a great way for Rudo to give us a final statement, giving that from my perspective, she represents, I think, some of the new young female leadership in Rotary, as well as in her own country and region. Why don't you give us a final statement before we go to our closure, Rudo?
Thank you so very much for this opportunity. I think for me, education is such an important piece of this puzzle. And appropriate education, digital technologies can offer a real opportunity for us to leapfrog development, especially in our region. And so I want to encourage us to encourage our young girls in STEM classes. They are You know, just as important to get a robotics toy as a young girl as it is to give it to a young boy. And I really would hate to leave without the opportunity to talk about helping to address climate change in our region. Our young girls are carrying water because of sometimes the drought circumstances and issues that don't allow for us to really address some of the environmental challenges that we have. So the work of Rotary is so wide ranging, and all of it adds together for empowering our young girls. So I'm just so privileged and humbled to have been a part of this opportunity and to be a part of this great work that we do across the globe. So thank you all for what you do in your different parts of the world.
Well, that was wonderful. Really, what an honor to be here with all of you. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I will hand it over to Clenise to give us some closure to our session today. And yes, I agree, Zebu, let's follow up. I have lots of ideas. So we'll all be congregating together again to figure out concrete ways to follow up. And we'll report back next year at CSW in 2024. Clenise.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you to all of our panelists for such a great conversation, as well as our audience for your questions. This is such a great opportunity for us to be inspired. I hope all of you all were inspired the way that I was, and will go forward and continue to be an advocate for us as we continue to look for ways to empower girls. I have to say that, you know, Rotary's Empowering Girls initiative is such a powerful opportunity for us to bring people together, collaborate around the world. And one of the things that we're doing in zones 33 and 34 is actually continuing to have Empowering Girls webinars as well as office hours. So please check out our website for additional details about some of our upcoming events. Also, please join our Empowering Girls group on Facebook, and you can look in the chat box for that particular link. And now you all have heard her name mentioned multiple times throughout our presentation today. And it is my honor and pleasure to introduce a message from the current RI President, Ms. Jennifer Jones.
Greetings to you all, and thank you for including me today. It is a joy to be able to share some thoughts with you during this important event, recognizing the contributions of women in Rotary. Thank you to each of you for the vital role that you play in making our organization stronger, smarter, and more adaptable to change. As you likely know, diversity has been a Rotary core value for many years, and it is incredibly exciting to see just how much energy and enthusiasm has been brought to our organization as we continue to make diversity a part of everything that we do. Our challenge now is to take that commitment to diversity and supplement it with equal commitments to equity and inclusion, ensuring that Rotary is a safe, welcoming organization for all of our members, and that every Rotary Club meets those high standards. The world around us has been changing rapidly for years, and it's wonderful to see Rotary fully embracing the future. We're actively working toward the RI board set target of 30% women in Rotary by 2023. We've come a long way, and already more than 110 countries have achieved this goal. That said, we have a long way to go, and 30% is the next stop on the way to 50. And you know, our members in Rotaract have already achieved this distinction. Speaking of Rotaractors, we continue to elevate their membership, seeing them as a critical membership type in our organization. Together, we have so much to accomplish. Many organizations these days are talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I am so proud of the way that Rotary is determined to make these more than just words. Increasing the diversity of our membership is important, but it's not the whole story. Having more diverse leadership is important too. And the real test for Rotary will come in how we open opportunities for diverse people all across the organization. And in turn, how that diversity influences and changes our organization. With every new member, every new partner, every new human being touched by Rotary, our organization changes just a little. Our consciousness grows a little bigger and our hearts expand with it. And that's where you come in. Days like today, they provide a wonderful opportunity for all of us to think about what we can learn from one another and imagine what this organization could become. The only limit to the amount of good that we can do in the world is our imagination. And the best way to expand our imagination is to open it up to new perspectives. This year, we're putting a special emphasis on turning our dreams and aspirations into reality. When organizations like ours dream big things like ending polio and creating peace, it becomes our responsibility to bring those things to life. I would like us to imagine a world that deserves our best, where we get up every day knowing that we can make a difference. And that's why this year, we will imagine Rotary. You are an essential part of that mission. So thank you. Thank you for joining in this meeting today, and thank you for your continued participation. I am so excited about the great things that we are going to accomplish together.
Thank you again for joining us today. You see the link of how to reach us and to contact us. You know, I'm so reminded that when our girls are well, the world is well. Thank you for choosing to be with us this morning, and we look forward to continuing the conversation, as I think we have all been challenged to do. Please reach out. You will receive an email from us that contains the links to our speakers and to the organizations and projects that they represent, as well as a link to our curated video. I would be remiss if I did not mention the amazing marketing and technical team that we have with us today, and Kim Walden and Sean, who are just extraordinary. So thank you so much on behalf of the entire Rotary International Empowering Girls Initiative, as well as the Zone 33-34 team. Thank you so much.